Hello everyone and welcome back to Chilling Nights. In today's video, I have a very true story that'll keep you up at night. It was posted by a Reddit user and it was titled, "When a Gut Feeling Saves You from the Man Waiting for You in a Doorway." And without further ado, let's get right into it. So this is a story from around 10 years ago. I was 16, 17 at the time. But I recently discovered this sub and it instantly brought me these memories flooding back to me. At the time, I kind of just brushed it off because nothing bad ended up happening to me and put it down to, I guess, stuff just happens to you when you're a woman walking alone at night. But looking back now, I realized how creepy it really was. I was coming home on my own on a Thursday night after being out at a pub with some friends. We had been out a little more centrally in the city, so I had to take a bus on my own to get home to my residential neighborhood. I had done this route hundreds of times, so I didn't see it as being particularly dangerous, especially as I live in a fairly nice neighborhood. It was only about 11 p.m., but because I lived in a residential area and it was the middle of the working week, when I got off, the bus at my stop was absolutely dead and there was no one around. Again, this didn't spook me, particularly as it was only about 5 to 10 minute walk from the bus stop to my house. As I turned down a long residential street that leads towards my house, I noticed a guy walking further down the street. This put me a little on edge because I was reassured by the fact that he had his back to me and I was walking away from me down the street. As I kept walking down the street, I noticed the guy turned around and clocked me. That's fine, I thought. I always turn around when I hear someone walking behind me at night, so nothing weird about it. But I noticed as we got further and further down the street, he kept doing it. Kept checking. I was still walking in the same direction as him. At this point, I'm starting to get pretty freaked out, particularly as I am painfully aware that we are the only two people around. Just as I was weighing up what I should do, he turned down the path of one of the houses to our right, and I breathed a sigh of relief. He is going into his house. I was just being paranoid the whole time. The houses in my area are terraced, with the front doors being kind of embedded into an enclave at the front of the house. What this means is that from where I was standing, about 50 feet away, I couldn't actually see the front of the door of his house, as it was obscured by the wall. However, I saw him walking down the path and disappear into the front door enclave, so my logical conclusion was that he was letting himself into his house. I can't describe exactly what made me feel like this, but after that initial feeling of relief wore off, I suddenly got this really bad feeling, so I stopped walking and just stood there. There was this tiny voice in my head that said, "What if he's just faking you out?" The feeling became so strong that I stepped off the pavement and dug down behind a parked car and just waited. After a couple of minutes of crouching behind the car staring at the house, I saw movement and my heart stopped. The man came back down the path, out into the street, and was looking around, looking for me. He must have been waiting for me in the door, knowing that if I kept walking, I wouldn't see him until it was too late. Unfortunately for him, his hiding place also meant that he couldn't see me. So when I didn't walk past him, as he anticipated, he had to come back out into the street to try and work out where I was. Looking back now, I should probably have called the police at this point. But as a scared teenager, my fight or flight brain took over, and I sprinted down one of the roads, running perpendicular to the street that we were on. As I knew I could use it to take a slightly longer route home, I didn't stop running until I got home, where I quickly double-locked the door behind me. Amazingly, I didn't even think to wake anyone in my family up. I literally just went to bed and then woke up the next morning and went to school. I dread to think what would have happened if I hadn't just suddenly got a bad feeling and stopped walking. Part of me thinks that on some subconscious level, my brain must have registered not hearing the front door shut after the man had approached it, and therefore triggered an alarm in my head. But I had no perception of this at the time. Lesson learned though, trust your gut.